sorry, may I get through?
Come straight back up to the camp station.
Realize that freedom is yours and it's freedom. And therefore it's the yours as it is for license. We want freedom for the nation, the vote, the The organization of the Soviet Russian Empire. They organized the empire as a free world nation.
At least I've been outside the roots of the town now. He's alright. Yep, it makes me smile.
I've just come up to working on the show. Both of them are doing impressed with what we know this time.
Is that an internal police car?
Further, diplomatic protection group. There's all the embassies down here, so they have to stand on the embassies. So they change over every 4 hours or something.
Long way down there.
На кінце тут. То там є адміністрація, бачите. Цей будинок тут.
Would you like to bring up, which I'm not going to just feel the need to if you'd like to raise them. If there's been some particular fears or anything that you've not been able to get across.
I doubt if I'd bring up any issues. I spoke my piece for about 45 minutes straight, so.
Sorry.
Excuse me.
Mr. Morgan, could you tell us your impressions of the ABN EFC conference?
I was very pleased with the conference. I was very happy to see the number of nations represented here. I see that I believe the embers have changed across the world today, particularly in Europe, and I'm glad to see that not only in the U.S. are we beginning to awaken, but also here in Europe. I'm glad to see that there's a more than concern that people are ready to start taking action and not just words. I think if there was a theme of the conference from all of the speakers that got up and said something, the guest speakers, the people who spoke from the floor, it was that most of us are tired of just talking about what the Soviets are doing, but that it's time for us to start doing some action, and that there is an action that can be done. Something very positive, many things that are very positive. We can start things in with our parliaments, with Congress, and the various nations. That's important. But there's also things that we can do in private committee to see that the Soviets are not welcomed as much as they are now in the various free world nations. Specifically, they had indicated in several of the speeches about the Strategic Defense Initiative, worrying about that being some of our plans, some of our secrets being stolen by so-called journalists, so-called academia, so-called businessmen from the Soviet Union. But specifically, we can make these gentlemen not feel quite so comfortable as they walk the streets in solicitation of these secrets. And I certainly, in the United States, will be leading an effort to do this. I can see counterparts here. I'm meeting tomorrow with some that very possibly would be doing the same thing in Europe, and I'm glad to see that. Like I said, the underlying, I believe, feeling that I got out of the conference, I was glad to see youth. I was glad to see those that were in their 20s and 30s being involved and being concerned and looking for action also. For in years past, I've seen the ABN and EFC conferences where we didn't see as many youth, but now we're seeing that, and I'm glad to see that. That's a good feeling to see this renovation of the spirit against communism.
And what about the demonstration today? Do you think that such demonstrations will help the cause of ABN?
The demonstrations will help. They're a part of the psychological warfare, if you will. They're necessary for media. They're necessary to keep before the public our calls, but by the same token, they're not enough in themselves. As conferences, speeches, all of these things are good. They have their place, but in themselves, they're not enough, for we're certainly in warfare. And if you look at any of the literature that was on the back table at the conference and look through at some of the pictures of some of the atrocities of the Soviets, then you can see very readily who we're up against and the inhumanity that we're up against. And as I said in my speech yesterday, you fight fire with fire.
I think on that note we can finish. Thank you very much. Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Пане професоре, які ваші погляди на цьогорічну конференцію АБН?
Я думаю, що конференція дуже вдала. Розумієте, немає нічого без якогось але, деяких недотягнень, але конференція вдала була. Головні доповіді були.
Чого ви так робите? Перепрошую.
Ще раз назвати.
Ще раз. І не шумсько тебе, то що це? То є такий сенситивний мікрофон, що ми не вшопили. Перепрошую.
Прошу.
Пане професоре, які ваші погляди на цьогорічну конференцію АБН?
Я думаю, що конференція є наскрізь вдала. Розумієте, нема речі без яких застережень, дрібних недотягнень. ніколи того не можна оминути, але коли розходиться про програму, про головні доповіді, про основну ідеологічну основу конференції, а саме верхні і низові межі стратегії оборони і визволення. Переведені дуже логічно, дуже добре, все трималося, так би мовити, головної теми. Думаю тільки, що панелі поодинокі були обсаджені трошки забагато людьми. І через це, може, воно трошки протягалося. Я думаю, що конференція разом з Європейським Радою визволення то добра думка, бо тоді ми маємо ширшу базу. І я думаю, що коли йдеться про усвідомлення зовнішнього світу, та конференція також своє зробить, бо ми мали досить чужих гостей, почавши від генерала, почавши від Вілкінсона, потім Беннета чи Мерфого, який заступав радіо Liberty, чи, прошу вас, репрезентантів парламенту. Це все свою роботу напевно зробить.
Совєтський Союз вважає, що це є дружба народів, а ви вважаєте, що це є Російська імперія. Наскільки ви думаєте, ці народи є свідомі, що вони поневолені?
Якщо про мене розходиться, я може досить радикальний в своїх поглядах. Я вважаю, що це не є жоден Совєтський Союз, то є Росія. Точка. Різні народи не мають нічого до говорення, зрештою, більшість з нас це знає. Хто тільки служить московським інтересам, там може вибитися, може зайти до найвищої класи, так званої номенклатури, як сьогодні її прозивають. Якщо хтось виломиться, так би мовити, з тих рамок служби всеросійським інтересам, він моментально тратить свою позицію від найвищих щеблів до найнижчих, тратить позицію в номенклатурі, тратить позицію, скажімо, в середній інтелігенції, чи позицію навіть в робітничому класі, чи в колгоспі. І кінчає або на арешті, або на засланні. І тому, кажу, номенклатура, назва Совєтський Союз є абсолютно облудною, і то вже був початок того, що ми нині маємо, тобто масова акція, переведена через кагебістів, тобто дезорієнтації, дезінформації і зведення західного світу на манівці через свою політику.
Professor Chirovsky, you have written several books on the Russian Empire.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, many people feel that Ukraine is a part of Russia. Could you explain this, please?
It was my main object when I was writing small story on Russia, Introduction to Russian History. And then when I started a big project of the history of Russian Empire, of that big project only one volume has been published. And I think the most important volume in which I analyzed exactly that controversial problem. Ukraine, Russia is a Kievan Empire, Kievan state, this first stage or one of the early stages of the growth of the Ukrainian people and Ukrainian statehood, or what Russians maintain is the beginning of the Russian history. And I clearly presented the objective, namely that Kiev and the Kievist state was definitely one of the early stages in the development of the Ukrainian people and that of the Russian people. It is a grand larceny, a grand robbery and theft in which Soviets and of course Russians, which is more appropriate name, Russians, always dealt with great perfection. Conquering people, taking from them not only, like they took from us, the name, but culture, civilization, social order, whatever ideologies, in order to use them to expand the Russian empire, to serve the interests of Russian imperialism.
Nonetheless, the Soviet Union claims that it is a brotherhood of nations, yet you still consider this to be the old Russian Empire?
Of course, it is an old Russian empire, and the name, the Soviet Union, or the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, was the first stage of what, as I pointed out a few minutes ago, the first stage to start that psychological warfare by misrepresenting facts, by lies, by distortion of the truth. As a matter of fact, I wrote lately a little booklet on that problem, namely the booklet entitled Ukraine in the Second World War. Whatever Russians want, they want to confuse the Western opinion, telling them that this is the brotherly land of all Soviet nationalities, which are merging into one Soviet people. That's baloney. This has nothing common with the true facts of life. Whoever visited the Soviet Union lately noticed definitely the resurgence and revival of the self-consciousness, awareness of individual nationalities which were forced sooner or later, starting, let's say, 18th century or perhaps even 20th century, the resurgence of national awareness and consequently a march toward the final date when the Soviet Union as a grand lie would be liquidated. I would like to suggest to read Solzhenitsyn's letter to the Politburo, where he indicated that this imperialistic drive is going to finish up the Russian interests. He suggested that Russia should withdraw to her ethnic boundaries, and in this way only Russia will be preserved from I would say perhaps from the Holocaust, which will bring everything down to a fall.
Thank you very much, Professor.
You're welcome.
Anna Cohen,
Dr. Bonner.
from Save the Oppressed People Committee in Washington, okay?
We have with us Dr. Bonner Cohen from the Save the Oppressed People Committee in Washington. Dr. Cohen, could you tell us what your impressions of the ABN Conference?
I must say I was very impressed by the ABN Conference. I was impressed not only by the dedication and the solidarity shown by the people representing so many captured nations around the world. I think what was particularly encouraging was the fact that so many young people of a younger generation, just in the beginning 20s and 30 years of age, people who in 10 to 15 years will be in positions of responsibility and are determined that the countries from which their parents and their grandparents have been expelled will someday be free countries, just as Great Britain is a free country today.
And this afternoon there was a demonstration. Do you think that such events help the cause?
Very definitely. It is fashionable